Chapter 1. Ishmael Goes to Sea.
Call me Ishmael,
The young American says when he begins his story on the Rachel. It is 1845 in the port of Bedford. Bedford is in North America, near the Atlantic Ocean. Ishmael is from New York. He is interested in whales. He wants to sail the sea and learn more about them. So he goes to Bedford and looks for whaling work there. But there are no whaling ships in Bedford Harbor that day. Ishmael must stay the night in Bedford and look again the next day. He walks through the streets. It is a cold evening. Where can he sleep? Near the harbor, he finds an old inn. He goes in and speaks to the landlord, Peter Coffin.
I'm a sailor and new in town. I'd like a room for the night.
The landlord says,
I don't have any empty rooms tonight. But you can stay in Queequeg's room. He's out now, but he's a sailor too.
Okay.
Ishmael says. He gives money to Mr. Coffin for the night. The landlord takes him up to Queequeg's room and leaves him there. Ishmael is tired. He goes to bed at once. Soon he is sleeping. Later that night, he hears a noise. He sits up suddenly in bed. There is a big man in the room with a harpoon in his hand.
Who are you? And what are you doing with that harpoon? Help!
Ishmael cries. The landlord comes to the door of the room.
This is Queequeg. He always has that harpoon with him because he's a harpooner.
Peter Coffin laughs.
Don't be afraid of him. He's okay.
There is only one bed in the room. Ishmael sleeps in it that night with Queequeg. But Queequeg is a big man, and there isn't much of the bed for Ishmael. At breakfast the next morning, Queequeg and Ishmael talk. They laugh about the night before.
I come from Queequeg in the South Pacific.
Queequeg says,
One day, I want to go back to my people and help them. But for now, I'm a whaler. You and I are brothers now.
He smiles. Ishmael is happy with his new friend. They leave the inn and visit Bedford Harbor. But again, there are no whaling ships. Then an old sailor sees Queequeg's harpoon.
Are you two looking for whaling work?
He asks.
Yes.
They answer.
Then go to Nantucket, the nearest big port. The Pequod is there this week. She's a whaling ship, and her captain's looking for sailors.
What's his name?
Ishmael asks.
Ahab.
The sailor answers.
He's a good captain and a good harpooner. But he's a strange man.
Let's go to Nantucket tomorrow.
Queequeg tells Ishmael. The next day, they sail to Nantucket. The Pequod is in the harbor there. They go on board, but they cannot see Captain Ahab. So they speak to Starbuck. Starbuck is the Pequod's first mate. He is a friendly man.
My friend Queequeg and I are looking for whaling work.
Ishmael says.
That's good, because we're looking for sailors.
Starbuck tells him.
Young man, can you row?
Yes.
Ishmael answers.
Good.
Starbuck says.
We have 4 whaling boats on the Pequod. 3 boats have a mate, 4 rowers, and a harpooner. The 4th boat is for Captain Ahab. You can be a rower in my boat, Ishmael. And I need a new harpooner, Queequeg. This man is one of our harpooners, too. Tashtego, meet Queequeg.
Tashtego is a tall man with long black hair. He says hello to Queequeg. The next day, the sailors' families come and say goodbye. The Pequod is leaving Nantucket. She's going to sea for 4 years, so the sailors' families are sad. Ishmael isn't sad. He's excited, but he has many questions in his head.
Where is Captain Ahab? Is he in his cabin? And when is he going to come and speak to his men?
Chapter 2. Ishmael's first whale hunt. After a week at sea, Captain Ahab comes on deck. He is a tall, old man. He has cold eyes and a scar on his face. All the sailors on the Pequod are afraid of him.
Look at his leg.
Ishmael tells Queequeg.
It's a whale's bone. And his face is angry. Why?
Call the crew on deck.
Ahab quickly says to Starbuck, the first mate. Ahab smiles at the sailors when they arrive. He has a gold coin in his hand.
Look, man. See Moby Dick, the white whale, first, and this coin is for you. I hate that white monster, and I want his life.
Captain,
Starbuck says.
how can you hate an old whale? It's not right.
See this whalebone leg, Mr. Starbuck?
Ahab answers.
Moby Dick must die for that. Are you with me, men?
Yes!
The sailors cry.
Captain,
Starbuck says.
our work is hunting whales, not looking for revenge. And the oceans are big. How can we find one whale in all that water?
We can, Mr. Starbuck.
Ahab says coldly.
That white monster can't always run away from me. 20 years is a long time, but I want revenge.
That evening, Ishmael asks an older sailor about Moby Dick. The old man tells the story.
It's 1825, and we're near Japan. We're hunting the white whale with Captain Ahab. Moby Dick is under the sea near our boat. We can't see him, but we're waiting quietly for him. Suddenly, our boat moves up. Moby Dick is coming up under us. Some men cry out. Soon we're all in the water. Ahab isn't afraid. He gets on the whale's back with a knife in his hand. He brings the knife down into the whale's body many times. Die, Moby Dick, you monster! He cries. The white whale looks at Ahab. He takes Ahab's leg angrily in his mouth. Then he closes his mouth on it. The captain can't stop him. Soon after, we bring Ahab back to our ship. We take him to his cabin, and we put him in his bed. Moby Dick has my leg. He cries. He must die for this. From that day, Captain Ahab's life changes. Now he never stops thinking of Moby Dick. He wants revenge.
Late the next day, Ishmael sees his first whale hunt. Tashtego is up on the mast, and he cries,
Look! Whales!
The men run to their boats. But what is this? 5 strange men in black clothes are helping Captain Ahab into his boat too.
Good for him!
The second mate laughs.
4 boats are better than 3.
Starbuck says nothing. After Ahab's talk of revenge, the first mate is not happy about this evening's whale hunt. Soon, the boats are rowing fast after the whales. The fastest boat of all has Ahab in it. Ishmael and Queequeg are in Starbuck's boat. The sky is dark now. They hear a whale near them, but they cannot see it. Suddenly, Queequeg stands up. He throws his harpoon at the whale, but he does not kill it. The whale hits the boat angrily with its tail. After that, Starbuck's boat begins to go down. They can't row back to the Pequod now. Just then, somebody in the boat cries,
Oh no! Look!
The Pequod is coming right at them. She's going to hit them. Chapter 3. Something terrible in the ocean.
Into the water, men! Fast!
Starbuck cries. At once, all the sailors from his boat jump into the ocean. Seconds later, the Pequod goes over their boat. But Starbuck is happy because all his men are alive. They swim quickly over to the ship and go on board. After that, the ship sails down to the south of Africa. The crew of Ahab's boat come out on deck then. All of them are wearing black clothes. Their master is Fedallah. He makes no noise when he moves around the ship. He always talks quietly to his men. He often walks on the deck of the Pequod with Ahab, and when they are walking, he speaks quietly in the captain's ear. But he never talks to any of the ship's crew. Ishmael is afraid of Fedallah. The sailors tell strange stories about him. Fedallah can see into the future, some of them say. One afternoon, Tashtego is up on the mast. Suddenly, the men down on the deck hear his cry.
Look! There's something big and white in the water! It's Moby Dick!
Into the boats, man!
Ahab cries to the crew.
Remember that gold coin!
But when the boats arrive at the white thing, they find no whale. It is something more terrible. A giant white squid. Its many arms are moving around with the water. But the squid is dead.
What a strange thing.
Starbuck says.
Giant squid usually live far down, under the ocean, and whales eat them. This is bad luck for us all, I feel.
No, Mr. Starbuck. You're wrong.
Says Queequeg.
It's good luck. When you see a giant squid, whales are never far away. Wait and see.
Queequeg is right. The next day, the men hunt and kill a big blue whale. They take its dead body back to the ship. They are very happy. Now they have a lot of whale oil for their barrels. They work on the dead whale's body with their knives, and for many hours they sing happily at their work. But Ahab isn't happy. He looks coldly at the dead blue whale, and he says nothing. Then he goes back to his cabin, and he closes the door behind him.
Ahab isn't interested in the oil.
Starbuck thinks.
He wants a bigger whale. A white whale. He wants Moby Dick. He needs revenge.
The men work on the dead whale all day. It is on the ropes at the front of the Pequod. The sailors carefully put the expensive oil from the whale's body into many barrels on deck. But in the afternoon, something terrible happens. Tashtego has oil on his hands. He falls from one of the ropes down into the whale's empty head. Then the giant head falls from the whale's body and into the ocean. Tashtego goes with it, and the whale's head, with Tashtego in it, goes down under the water. Queequeg quickly jumps into the sea after his friend. Minutes later, Starbuck's boat is in the water too. It is going to help them. Ishmael is one of the rowers on the boat. He cannot see Queequeg now because he is under the water.
Oh no. Is my good friend dead?
He thinks sadly. Chapter 4. Let's forget Moby Dick. Ishmael's friend Queequeg is swimming down to the whale's head. It is falling slowly to the ocean bed. Can Queequeg pull Tashtego out of it in time? The men on the Pequod cannot see through the dark water. They watch from the deck and wait. Nobody speaks. After some minutes, Queequeg's head comes up out of the water. He is pulling Tashtego behind him, and he is alive. Ishmael helps them on board Starbuck's boat, and soon they are back on the ship again.
Good work, Queequeg.
Starbuck smiles.
Maybe our luck is changing after all.
But is Starbuck right? In the Indian Ocean, they find no whales. Where are they all?
Maybe there aren't any more whales in the sea.
Ishmael thinks.
After all the hunting.
Nothing happens for days after this, and Ahab stays in his cabin. Then the sailors suddenly see many whales in front of them. Is their luck changing? The whaling boats go out. Soon there are whales all around them.
Be careful, boys! Watch their tails!
Starbuck cries.
There are young whales here, and their mothers don't want whalers near them.
After many hours, the boats go back to the Pequod. They have only one whale with them, and it is not very big.
Our work is never easy.
Starbuck thinks tiredly. Then Ahab sees a ship not far away. It is the Samuel Enderby. He calls out to the English captain.
I'm looking for a giant white whale. Can you help me?
Captain Boomer answers.
Yes, I can. Look!
He puts up his left arm. It is a whale's bone. Ahab is excited.
Take me over to the Samuel Enderby, quickly!
He says to his men.
Ahab's going crazy.
Starbuck thinks. On board the Samuel Enderby, Ahab says hello. He hits his whalebone leg and Captain Boomer's whalebone arm with his hand. Boomer laughs. He is a friendly man, and his face is red from the sun.
Tell me more about this white whale.
Ahab says.
Oh, I remember him well.
Boomer answers.
He has a giant head and scars all over his body. There's an old harpoon in his back.
That's my harpoon!
Ahab cries.
So it is him! Moby Dick! Where is he now?
I don't know. I'm talking about last year, but I can see it all in my head. First, he breaks my boat in two with his tail. Before I know it, I'm in the sea. Suddenly, he pulls me under the water. Then the harpoon in his back goes into my arm. It comes out near my hand. After that, my first mate pulls me from the water and takes me to my ship. I stay for weeks in my bed, and my arm goes black. In the end, the ship's carpenter cuts off my arm with his knife. A terrible thing. So, I lose my arm. But I'm alive. That's something.
And the white whale?
Ahab asks.
Ah, he's out there, the old monster. He has my arm, but he can't have any more of me.
Boomer laughs.
And he has your leg too, Captain Ahab. So let's forget Moby Dick, I say. What about you?
Chapter 5. Can you help me, Ahab?
Forget Moby Dick? Never!
Ahab cries.
I want to have my revenge.
Boomer looks at Ahab strangely.
What's the matter with you, Captain? Moby Dick's a whale, not a man. Why are you looking for revenge on him? Are you crazy?
Question me no more.
Ahab says angrily.
Take me back to the Pequod.
He tells his man.
The white whale is calling. I must go.
Some weeks later, the Pequod is near Japan. Ahab is very excited. Moby Dick is not far away, he feels. One evening, Starbuck visits Ahab's cabin.
There's oil on one of the decks, Captain.
He says.
It's coming from the barrels. We can't lose it. We must bring the barrels up and look for holes in them.
The whale oil doesn't matter.
Ahab cries.
Captain,
Starbuck says.
I'm asking you for the last time. Forget the white whale. Think about your men.
Are you asking or telling me?
Ahab says. He takes his gun in his hand and looks at Starbuck.
There's only one captain on this ship. Remember that.
Yes, Captain.
Starbuck answers him. At the same time, he is thinking,
But maybe soon I must kill you, you crazy old man.
Ahab puts his gun down.
All right, Starbuck. Go and look at those barrels.
He says.
I'm not interested.
Hours later, there are barrels all over the deck. Queequeg looks carefully at them all. In the end, he finds a hole in one of them. He puts the oil from it into a new barrel. But he is cold after this work late at night. And the next day, he is very ill.
I'm dying.
He tells Ishmael.
Bring the ship's carpenter here. He must make a coffin for me. And bring my harpoon too.
Ishmael is sorry for his friend. He goes for the carpenter. The carpenter comes and makes a big coffin. Queequeg gets in it with his harpoon.
It's a good coffin,
he says. But after 3 days, Queequeg is well again.
I can't die now.
He says.
The time isn't right. And later, I must go home and help my people. The coffin can wait.
Ishmael is happy for his friend. One night, Captain Ahab has a terrible dream. In this dream, he dies at sea.
Can it be true?
He asks Fidela. Fidela looks into the future. Then he says,
Before you can die, you must see 2 coffins on the sea. One is alive, and one is of wood. A rope is going to kill you, Master. But I'm going to die first.
The sky is black with rain now, but Ahab laughs at the rain. and at the white lightning in the sky.
You cannot kill me!
He cries.
This scar on my face is your work. But look at me! I live!
Just then, there is a cry from the mast, and a sailor falls into the sea.
More bad luck, Captain.
Starbuck says,
Let's go home.
but Ahab is not listening. Later that day, a big whaling ship, the Rachel, arrives near the Pequod. Captain Gardner of the Rachel knows Ahab well.
Can you help me, Ahab?
Gardner calls across the sea.
We can't find one of our boats, and my young son's on it.
Starbuck looks at Ahab. Is the captain listening to his old friend? Can he forget for 1 minute about Moby Dick? Chapter 6. Revenge.
Where is he?
Ahab calls to Gardner.
Who are you talking about? My son?
Gardner cries.
No, the white whale!
Ahab answers his old friend.
Where's Moby Dick?
I can forget Ahab's help.
Gardner thinks.
He's crazy.
So the Rachel leaves. Gardner must look for his boy alone. Ahab's revenge on Moby Dick is more important than the life of a good friend's son.
I have a son at home,
Ahab thinks sadly.
but I must kill Moby Dick before I see him again.
That night, Ahab says,
The white whale's near us. I can feel it. Take me up the mast, man.
From the mast, Ahab looks out at the black water. Suddenly, he cries,
There he is, the monster. I see him. The gold coin is for me. To the boats! Starbuck, stay on the Pequod with your crew.
The hunt for Moby Dick takes 3 days. On the first day, the whale swims quickly away from their boats.
Ah, he's laughing at us.
Ahab says.
Give the harpoon to me.
Just then, the white whale swims under Ahab's boat. He comes up suddenly and breaks the boat in two. Starbuck on the Pequod quickly pulls everyone from the water.
Listen, men.
Ahab cries on the deck of his ship.
See the white monster tomorrow, and the gold is for you. I see him first, and I give you all 10 times the money. Sleep well tonight. Tomorrow, we kill Moby Dick.
On day 2 of the hunt, the white whale swims in front of the ship. He jumps out of the sea again and again.
This is your last day, you monster!
Ahab says.
To the boats!
Ahab and his crew go out in Starbuck's boat. Moby Dick hits the second and third mate's boats with his tail. The harpooners in them throw their harpoons into his body. But he moves around crazily. Soon, all the ropes are tangled. The 2 boats go over, and the men fall into the water. Moby Dick goes to Ahab last and hits Starbuck's boat with his head. Soon, everyone is in the water. Again, Starbuck pulls them back on board the Pequod. Ahab calls all the crew on deck, but Fedallah is not there with them.
My true friend.
Ahab thinks sadly.
So the sea has you now.
Let's stop this crazy hunt, Captain.
Starbuck says.
The white whale's faster than us. We can never kill him. Forget Moby Dick.
No!
Ahab cries.
I need revenge. We're going to kill him tomorrow. Then we can go home. Let's ask the crew. Are you with me, men?
We are!
All the sailors cry. On day 3, the sky is dark, but the 3 boats go out again. Soon they find Moby Dick before them, a giant white hill half under the sea. The men say nothing, but they are afraid.
Go to him, men! Kill him!
Ahab cries. Then they all see something terrible. Fedallah's dead body is lying on the whale. The harpoon ropes from the day before are tangled around the 2 of them.
So Fedallah dies before me, and Moby Dick's his coffin. Oh, this monster's playing with me.
Ahab says. Just then, one of the sailors cries,
Hey, look! The whale's going for the ship!
Moby Dick hits the Pequod with his big white head. He makes a hole in her, and she begins to go down.
Ah! My ship!
Ahab cries.
But wait! That's Fedallah's second coffin. The coffin of wood.
Ahab throws his harpoon angrily, and he hits the whale's back. But Moby Dick is swimming away fast. The harpoon rope goes around Ahab's body, and it pulls him into the ocean. For some minutes, the white whale pulls the captain behind him. At first, Ahab has his head up out of the water. But then the whale goes far down under the sea. So Ahab goes down with him, and he dies. He never has his revenge on Moby Dick. The Pequod goes down too, with all her crew. And she takes the 3 whaling boats with her. At the last minute, Ishmael jumps into the ocean. He swims away fast. All the sailors from the Pequod die, but Ishmael lives. He is happy about that. But where can he go now? Suddenly, he sees Queequeg's empty coffin on the water. He swims over to it, and he gets on it. For a day and a night, he lies on that coffin, alone in the blue Pacific Ocean. Ishmael is lucky. 2 days later, the Rachel sails back. Captain Gardner finds Ishmael lying on the coffin and takes him on board. Sadly, Gardner never finds his young son. But luckily, he saves Ishmael's life. That night, the sailors on the Rachel ask Ishmael for his story. He tells it for the first of many times. It is the story of Captain Ahab's crazy last days and of his hunt for the terrible white whale, Moby Dick.